Hey everyone, today is February 21st, 2023, and I'm going to show you the process that we've gone through so far with cleaning up the blowdown. Back in December, I had 47 trees fall down, and there was already a lot of existing ones on the ground. We're working on chopping them up, so as soon as spring comes, the forest can start growing back. There was a lot of seedlings on the ground. They should be able to do all right. Over here off to the side, you still got these stuck up here. There's another group of like half a dozen widowmakers. Gonna have to take them down one by one. So I had two friends come over and help me do a lot of chainsawing here. This was the worst part. You see this giant open space in the forest. This was never here before. Probably 24 trees fell down. They were just toppled all on top of each other. And a few of them, to get them down, we actually had to kill a couple trees, but that's the only way to do it without damaging them. Or, I mean, without damaging even more. And we also saved a couple by pulling them down with winches. And you see the piles of debris. I have never even thought about this. I was either going to burn it or make it into habitat piles, but this worked even better. See this little mound right here? Believe it or not, it's like 8 trees of branches. My friend who worked years at a tree company showed me this, and I never even thought about it. You just pile it up, you just chop it like lettuce with the chainsaw. He said it's called bucking it. So now it's in these, all the branches are like basically chipped into little wood chips. And now this big pile, it's more dense. Something will actually like to live in this more. And this can just sit here and rot, or maybe sometime I can have a little fire with it. I thought this would make a good camping spot at some point. See how the logs are coming along? Stacking them in this giant triangular pattern here. It's going to be a huge triangle. And the work is not even that much done. This was 2 days of work. Estimate 8 more days of 3 people working out here to get it to a nice manageable spot. And after 8 more days, these triangular walls are expected to be like 8 feet tall, surrounding this with like 2 entrances. You know, it's like a whole wall. Definitely going to camp in the middle of this at some point. And you see this tree, how it just snapped and crumpled. This one here, this is a tiny tree. It was alive, but look how much of it is rot. It's say like 90% of that tree's rot. And look at this one. That's what carpenter ants and stuff do, mostly rot. But this one didn't fall down because of the rot. It just uprooted from the soft soil. This one right here, either, I think, broke, because that one looks pretty straight. Not how it's cut, though. This tree here, you can probably tell by the stump, it tried to uproot. It was crooked, and it was leaning against all these trees. So to save these trees, we cut that one down. Now this one right here is a little crooked, but it may straighten itself out. That one's dead. Not a priority to get rid of those. It's a priority to clean up the forest floor and mitigate the chance of a forest fire, clear the ground so seedlings can quickly grow back, and preventing forest fires. And this is all pine. My recommendation, if you're burning pine to heat your house, a lot of people believe the myth that pine will burn your house down. Here's what happens. No matter any kind of wood you burn, if it's green and wet, it's going to cause creosote. Pine is blamed for the chimney fires, because it doesn't burn as long, but it burns extremely hot really fast. And that boost in flames, if the flames are allowed to go up the flue, it can start a fire since it creates more flame. Yeah, it has about the half the BTU value of hardwood, so it takes twice as much to heat a house. But this stuff, if I go and bring it to the log splitter or try to use an axe, the fibers are holding it together. A log splitter, unless it goes all the way to the end, you can't split green pine. I've got the log splitter to go through these things like 90%, and they're still stuck together pretty well. Not to mention they're covered in sap. It'll get your machinery filthy. So here's what I do with pine. It will sit out here for 1 entire year. Then it will be brought back to the house, split, and pine dries fast. If this was hardwood, it would take so many years for it to cure, it being in rounds. Like, for example, oak. It dries about 1 inch deep a year. What that means is you want to split it into no thicker than 2 inches if you want to use it in 1 year. It has to sit for 2 years if you want bigger pieces that you call all-nighters. With pine, it basically will go through the wood. It will cure in these rounds in about 1 year. Smaller ones, half a year. Split in like 6 months, no matter what size the log was. Now, here's why I think it's a good idea to let it sit for 2 years, despite the wood actually curing in 1 year. The wood may cure in 1 year, but the extremely sappy bark is still sappy for like 2. And that can cause creosote. So I would say pine, let it sit for like 2 or 3 years before you even burn it. So this is a couple seasons away. But we have so many dead trees standing. We'll take down just a couple of those to supplement next year until this is ready the following year. Now, trees typically have these giant bubbles all over them. You see that bubble right there? These are the reserves the tree has in case there's a drought. When I was a little kid, I used to touch them all the time, accidentally popping them, sometimes purposely popping them. Look at this. These little pockets of sap will stay sappy for 2 or 3 years. Just because the wood is dried, these pockets are still there. And that is what can cause a fire. That's extremely flammable. Now, because we've had droughts in recent years, there's not as many bubbles. You see, this tree is pretty healthy. It's got a good amount of them. But if we weren't in any sort of drought, like when I was a little kid, this whole thing would be full of bubbles. You just smack it with your hand and you're just covered in it. Well, the past few summers, we've lost a lot of trees, and I expect to lose more this year. They said it's probably going to be another drought. We almost get out of it every winter. Like right now, we're doing pretty well, but it's just the truth. It seems like every year, the area just keeps getting hotter. That's what happens when you pave more roads, rip down more forests, more black rooftops. It just makes the general area hotter and hotter, and the trees are suffering from it. Like this area of New England, the average summer high in July is supposed to be 76. Last year it was 91, and we had no rain. If it's hotter, you're going to need more rain to supplement for that, and that's what caused these trees to become weak. Bugs attack them because during a drought they're producing less sap that protects them from the bugs, and that's a giant problem that we're starting to have here. Yep. So looking around, there's definitely a lot more stumps. Like this stump right here. See the back of it? Oh, wait, never mind. I'm trying to show you. It looks like we already cut this, but this was like a foot taller, and we had a notch that we had a chain going through so we could winch down some of them to protect others. Now, behind this wall, pretty much, we're going to leave untouched. There's tons of little trees ready to grow back, minimal debris, which should rot. When I was a kid, it used to rain up here so much that things would rot away after a few years. A tree falls over, it'd be absolutely covered in moss by the end of the season. Less rain. Also, this winter has been warmer than usual. Last winter, we had a great winter. We had like 40 days below zero. And it never got above freezing for like 2 months straight. This winter, it keeps going above freezing. We had 2 feet of snow here a week ago. Now we're down to a couple inches, just sticking around. This year, we got down to negative 38 one day, but just one day. We've only had 5 days below zero, which is completely not normal. This has been the warmest winter I've ever had up north. You go down to southern New England, they got like, 2-3 inches the whole season. It's not normal. Up here, we're usually supposed to get over like 100 inches of snow a year. Let's say this year we got like 30. Oh, here's another wood pile, some nice smaller ones. And also, I'm used to firewood, so I can go through this and I can determine, look at this. This is already dry. These certain ones, I can take those and burn them right now if I needed to. Right here, this is probably not going to stay a permanent trail, but this is how we're getting everything back. Lots and lots more to cut up out here. But we got to get all the stuff off the ground, and that'll prevent forest fires. Like, You just got to get the branches into piles like this. You don't even have to burn them. Those will crush down and things will live in them. Rabbit, woodchuck, a lot of times will make their entrance underneath there. Take a look at this, right in the middle of the triangle. Got a pretty nice shelter in here under the uprooted tree. But here's the thing about that one. Lots of people were complaining in my camping under the tree video, calling me an idiot, saying, what if that tree stands back up? You'll be crushed. That tree was almost on the ground. Unless I cut the tree, it's not going to stand back up. I don't know why I got so many comments with that crap, but here, this one, unless the ground is absolutely frozen, I'm not going to sleep underneath this one because we cut the tree. Who knows, when this ground thaws, that might fall back. It probably will. Do I think all the way? No, but not going to take that chance. We got a good amount of firewood out here. So burning pine, and what I've learned so far, burning pine, what you see out here is probably 1.5 years so far. If this was hardwood, it may actually be well over 2 years worth of heating. Well, for my house anyways. Most of these trees you see out here, they're less than 50 years old. This was a logging forest years ago.